through young people. Because it's knowing. Bien, that's bad, then yeah. Okay, four. We are underlining pronosis, and it's pronosis because it's knowing a place.
Alexa, turn the gas log off.
I'm not quite sure what went wrong with the gas log.
Stop it. Alexa, turn the gas log off.
Set up like a word bank for things, and then you have to put it in like side or set
Turn the gas log off.
stop, right?
Jeez, I really just off.
Still what's their regular verb? You know. Oid is here, and so well, Moisés is now, Aquarius is here, there is to see, and Oid is here. We don't know what verb to use because it's influent. And please study it and we'll say it.
That, you guys have your midterm review packets now, so. All set for that. Hello, Miss Emerson. So how was Halloween, ladies? Did we get a good haul? Did we bring in lots of candy? Yes? I heard you got ramen. Is this correct? Was this the best thing, the ramen? Yeah. That's so funny. That's good though. Awesome. Ramen it is. We'll have to remember that. Oh, did I put hers over there? I'm sorry. Thought I had them all situated. Guess not. So we were in Texas this weekend, of course, you guys know, but it was crazy. Saturday morning, they had it was Baylor's homecoming, so they had a big parade for Baylor's homecoming. And they also had a Dia de los Muertos parade that took up a huge part of it. So the two parades going on at the same time. So we just took an Uber to the football game because we were like, we are never going to get there. All the roads were closed and it was pretty wild, but we had a good time. It was a fun trip. Got to see my big kid and meet his friends and all of that. So it was good. So you can put you can put your midterm review in one of the pockets in your binder so you don't lose it or whatever. But just like in the past, you guys know, just work through it. And you'll get. I don't have the slides quite ready yet. They will be done by the end of the week, I imagine, so you can check your answers against the slides, but they're not quite there yet. They're almost there. It should help. Oh, your tumbler matches your hoodie perfectly. Did you mean to do that? That's perfect. Absolutely. Are you still doing the Grinch? Aren't you doing the Grinch or something? Are you practicing still, rehearsing? How's that going? When do you rehearse? Like once a week, twice a week, 3 days a week, twice a week? Once a week. What day? Today. So it's Tuesday. So Tuesdays are your busy day. Ah, yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's good then. You think it's going to be good production? Is it looking good? Does everybody have their stuff together? People have their lines done now, or are they still messing with lines? Not off book. Not everybody's off book yet. All right. Well, you're getting there. It takes time. Some people take a long time. I directed a show when I was teaching at the other school where I used to work, and it was funny because I gave out scripts on like a Friday. By Monday, I had one little girl who was entirely off book for everything. She had memorized every single line. She had a decent part too. She was off book after one weekend, but she had no inflection for any of her lines. They were all just deadpan monotone, like no going up at the end if you have a question, like none of that. Like it was all just da 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 straight across, and it was rough because she'd already memorized them, so we had to kind of work her out of that into. That's a question. You have to. That's a phrase. That's a statement, not a question. You have to make it. The inflection has to be right. She just did not have that. I'll just wait on Evan. Give him another few minutes.
When we were in Finding Nemo, I didn't have like a really big part, but I had lots of lines because I was lots of different parts.
Okay, yeah.
And the first day that they gave us the script, I already had everything memorized.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Very good. Very good. Yeah, we did. It was Wind in the Willows, and she was Mole, so she had a fair amount of lines. But then she just went and read them all monotone, and it was like, oh no. Delivered every line complete monotone. But it was all right. It turned out to be a good show. They had a good time. We had fun. Small cast as it needed to be for a very small school. That was always the hard part, was finding a show we could do with only a few kids, because I only had I want to say 8 kids in my theater group, so there weren't a ton of people, so we had to find shows that had a small cast and not too many company parts, because that made it too hard.
You don't stand. Yeah. Yes, I knew that's what they're.
Can you
Wait for the team, make sure you've got everything you need, unless you've already got it done. We're all over the too.
I said we'll wait.
It's so mean. All right. Their team has solved their cold case, so.
Are either of you all on their team?
Oh, you saw that.
One of you is, weren't you? Joe Collins' team? One of you is. What you got?
What is this one for?
See?
Yeah.
The name,
The name of the.
your suspect that you want your buccal swab from. And then I shall sign it for you. All right, well, we'll go ahead and start. Evan should be here shortly. I don't think I got a text or anything that said he was late or whatever. Let me double check. Last week he had a last minute trip. So, all right. So today we are talking about human heredity and how genetics plays into that. And we're going to talk about a whole bunch of different genetic disorders as part of the lesson today. So some of these you might recognize, some of these you may have never heard of. You probably know people that have some of these disorders or have met people or at least seen people. Hey, Evan, come on in, dude. How are you? Good. That is your midterm review packet. So put that in one of the pockets of your binder. So this is my note before we start teaching is I had some things to hand out. So everybody has that now. There you go. And then also for your homework, about half of my students understood the assignment and the other half did not. So basically, if you did it and made an effort, you got credit. If you didn't even attempt the homework last week, then I just excuse the assignment for you. Excusing will not hurt your grade, but completing it kind of will help. Excusing it won't help or hurt, kind of in the middle. But if you do something well and you get a good grade on it, it can help towards your grade. But excusing it doesn't really like hurt or help. So if you see it in your grade book and it says excused, it's because you didn't even attempt it. That's fine, because it confused some people and I don't want everybody stressed out. Plus, I was out of state and not able to like respond super quickly to everybody. All right, so here we go. What is heredity? Anybody know what heredity is? No? What does it mean to inherit? Heredity? So it's the passing of traits from parent to offspring. Now remember, doesn't just involve humans. We're going to talk a lot about humans today, but heredity is something that is involved with plants, microorganisms, dogs, birds, you name it. If you are an offspring of a parent, then heredity applies to you. You've inherited traits. So genes on chromosomes, what does that say? Genes on chromosomes it should say and are called, they have alleles. There's a typo, sorry. The traits that show up in an organism. So genes on chromosomes control the traits that show up in organisms. And we know that genes come as alleles, right? And you get a pair of alleles because you get one chromosome from your mom, one from your dad, and each has an allele on it, right? And multiple genes are going to make multiple DNA sequences are going to make up each allele, and then the alleles are going to create what your genes are. So there are different forms of a trait that a gene may have. Whoop, there's another typo. How did that happen twice? So, for example, those are the brown-eyed, blue-eyed ones that we see, or brown-eyed, blue-eyed, and in this case, it's showing like what's the baby going to be. Usually, if it's brown eyes, blue eyes, that's an easy one. Usually, brown eyes are going to be dominant over blue eyes, but not always. So let's talk about multiple alleles. So typically, how many alleles are there for a gene? In it, what's diploid mean? It says in a diploid organism. Who remembers what diploid is? So diploid means you have both sets of chromosomes. So all of the cells in your body are diploid except your sex cells. Sperm and eggs are haploid, right? Because they have half of the genetic information they need, half the chromosomes. So in a diploid organism, in an organism with both sets of genes, both sets of chromosomes, one from mom, one from dad, how many alleles are there usually going to be? Do we know how many alleles they're usually going to be? We did it last, sometimes, usually there's going to be two. There's going to be there's usually a dominant form and a recessive form. And remember, like when we talked about Punnett squares, either you get two dominant, two recessive, or you get a dominant and a recessive, right? So it's usually there's two. But when there's a gene existing on more than two alleles, what do we call it? Do we know? We call it, go ahead. Yeah, say it. You got it. Multiple alleles. There it is. So this is called multiple alleles or multiple allelism. All right, so here's an example. You have this allele, and look, you've got 4 different types for that allele. Do you see it? You got a big C with a little CH, a big C with an H, and then a little c. And that's kind of how those are organized. So you can have different genotypes. So if you have 2 of the big C, your rabbit will be brown. If you get 2 of the little c with the CH, you get what's called the chinchilla rabbit, which is like brown with kind of darker tips. And if you get 2 of the little c with just the H, you get the Himalayan rabbit. right, with this white and then its dark points. And then if you get two of the little C's, you get an albino rabbit or a white rabbit. So there are multiple alleles in this case for this particular gene that expresses color. So that's multiple alleles. Then we have something called polygenic traits. So this is when your phenotype is influenced by more than one gene. So remind me what a phenotype is. What's it? What's shown? Very good. How you look, what's shown, what's expressed, right? That's a phenotype. The genotype is, remember, what your alleles say. Well, some traits are expressed by multiple genes. Okay, so we had multiple alleles, which means there are more alleles in the gene pool. There are more options for what that phenotype is going to be in the end because there are more options for genotypes. In this case, it's multiple genes that are going to impact a particular trait. So traits that display continuous distribution, like a spectrum, that's what a continuous distribution is, such as height or skin color, are polygenic. So humans aren't born short or tall, right? We also don't have a short, medium, tall, and really tall. We don't have that option, right? It's in a continuous distribution. It's a bell curve, it's a spectrum. If you stood all the adults you know in one room, you could line them up from shortest to tallest, right? Right, but it's not like they're going to be in groups. These are the short people, these are the really short people, these are the medium people, these are the tall people. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be a continuous distribution. Same thing with skin color. If you put all of us together in a room, we're all in a room. If you lined us all up and we all like looked here, there's not going to be like two of us that are this color, one of us that is another color, right? We're going to be, it's shades. It's a distribution. It's a spectrum. So those are controlled by more than one gene, rather than some things that are controlled by having multiple alleles in a population. All right, so let's look at them again side by side. Multiple alleles versus polygenic traits. Let's make sure we understand the difference. So this is multiple alleles. You see that there's like a teal, a light blue, a pink, a yellow, and a green, and those are all of your options that are in your gene pool. So in your population, you have all of these options. And whatever, there's going to still be two in the end. You're going to get two alleles that are going to express whatever that phenotype is, but you've got a lot of options for which two, because you see you have 5 alleles there. Whereas with polygenic traits, you still got 2 alleles going for every part of this gene, but it's all of those together that are going to cause a difference in how it's expressed. So those 2 alleles form this gene, and it's a monogenic trait. It's only one gene, right? There's the gene. It's that blue and the teal. So that's one gene. But there are more than 2 alleles present in the population. So you could have gotten any of those 5. Now for this one, these 3 genes or sets of alleles are going to work together to produce your polygenic trait. So this might be rabbit fur color, and this might be human height. Okay? Does everybody understand the difference between those 2? Yes, no? Clear as mud or clear? Help me out.
Yeah.
You get it? You get it? Okay, some of you get it. Some of you are still staring. So how many chromosomes does a typical human have? Do you know how many chromosomes you have? Anybody know? Typical human. We don't know?
12.
Not 12, a whole lot more than 12. But guess. We have 46 chromosomes, which means they're in pairs. How many pairs do we have?
23.
Yes, good. 23. All right, 23 pairs. And the number of chromosomes help identify what an organism is. Do you know that not all organisms have 46 chromosomes? Some have far less. Some have more. So let's look. A roundworm is a very simple organism, and it only has 4 chromosomes. Rice, for example, rice has 24 chromosomes. A human has 46. Look at the chimpanzee. He has 48. And the dog has 78. All right, I'm going to ask you a crazy question. Could you breed a chimpanzee with a dog? and produce an organism? Think about it. Could the chimpanzee and the dog mate and have a baby something? Why do you think? That's a very good guess. Does anybody else have a different guess? Do you think they can mate or not? No? Why not? One's a lot what? One has a lot more chromosomes. Okay, now remember that when organisms mate, they have half the chromosomes over here for the father parent, half the chromosomes over here for the mother parent, and those pairs have to come together, right? So if you get 23 from your mom and 23 from your dad, you end up with your 46. Well, if the chimpanzee has 24 in his sperm, let's say, for example, and the dog has what, 35 or 39 in her egg, can 24 and 35, or what did I say? 30, what did I say? 39. Are those gonna pair up? 25 and 24 and 39, are those gonna pair up? No, they can't pair up. So that's why you don't get hybrids of chimpanzees and dogs or pigs and snakes. That's why it doesn't work, because the chromosome number has to be the same. Can a horse and a donkey produce an offspring? Yes, what's it? What is it? Do you know what it is? Mules. Yeah, okay. Why? Because they have the same number of what? Yes, absolutely. There we go. So egg and sperm are not diploid. They're what? What did I say they are? If they have half the number of chromosomes, they're not diploid, they're haploid, which means they contain half. It's easy to remember. Haploid, half, right? Half the number of chromosomes. So they have 23. So these cells, we call them sex cells, or we call them gametes. And a female's chromosomes end up typically having X and X, and males are X and Y. Okay, so you have 46 chromosomes in your body in 23 pairs. Your last pair 23, determine your sex, whether you are male or female. And all eggs in all female humans have which chromosome do you think? X or Y? X. All eggs have X. All eggs have X. Sperm, on the other hand, are half X and half Y. So half of them have an X, half of them have a Y. All right? So if you get an X egg and an X sperm, what sex is the baby going to be? Very good. And if you get an X egg and a Y sperm, what sex is the baby going to be? Boy. Right. Okay, that's how it works. That's how it works. So you get XX and XY. So you can see right there, we got half our chromosomes over here, half our chromosomes over here. We put two X's together, we get a female. We put an X and a Y together, we get a male. Now, this is because all of the cells in your body, with the exception of very few specific ones, and your sex cells, all of it, like your skin cells, the cells inside your mouth, the cells that make up your liver, the cells that make up certain cells in your brain, not all of them, but they all have, in your case, an X and a Y, in y'all's case, an X and an X. All of them do. And there are certain cells in your gonads, so like in ovaries and in testes, that are going to divide and make your gametes. So if you only had X to begin with, you can only make gametes that have an X or an X or an X or an X. But if some of those cells have a Y, then when they start to divide, some get X, some get Y, and it ends up being 50-50. So all other cells have 46 chromosomes in them. So what do we call if they have both pairs? Not haploid, but diploid. Good job, guys. So these are called autosomes. Basically, your cells are gametes, autosomes. Now, here's something interesting. Those right there. What kind of cells are those, do you think? Those are red blood cells. Very good. Red blood cells don't have your chromosomes in them because they lack a nucleus, actually. So although your skin cells and all these other maybe different types of cells you have, that's an osteoclast, it's a bone cell, those are going to have 46 chromosomes. Red blood cells are different. but most of your cells are going to be 46. So all human eggs carry a single X, we said this, and all of the sperm, half of all the sperm carry an X and half carry a Y. So this ensures that just about half of the zygotes, what's a zygote? Who remembers what a zygote is? When an egg becomes fertilized by a sperm, it becomes a zygote. Like fertilized egg is kind of a redundant term because it's no longer an egg, it's now a zygote. So this means half of all the zygotes will be 46XX, and the other half will be what we call 46XY. So that means that half of all offspring produced by sexual reproduction, so humans, mammals, certain reptiles, anything that mates with a member of the opposite sex of its species, is going to be about half male and about half female. Why do you suppose that matters? Why does that matter? I think there's, if you want to sit there, you can probably avoid this side's moving, but if it's in your eye, if you go to that corner of the couch, it looks like it's free of sun. It has blinding. Why do you think it matters that about half of the offspring are male and about half the offspring are female? Let me ask you this. What would happen if you had a population of turtles on it? Not turtles, they're not a good example. Okay, population of chipmunks on an island, and they were 10% female and 90% male. What's going to happen to that population over time, do you think? What do you think? There's not going to be enough females to make more babies. You have to be about half and half to keep your population at least the same. And hopefully grow is your idea, right? Right, okay. So let's talk about sex-linked genes. All right, so there are all kinds of sex-linked genes that are found on the X chromosome. So some of your genes that control different parts of how your body functions are going to be on your sex chromosomes. And these matter a whole lot because you can get genetic disorders that they call sex-linked, and they're usually found on the X. And here's why. Look at that X chromosome. Look at her. She's big. She's brilliant. She's bold. She's strong. She's got all these genes. Look at the Y. Look at him. He doesn't even have, look, he can't even match up with her entirely, right? Look at him. One of my college professors said the Y chromosome is, but it's very small. So it doesn't have genes. So here's what happens. If you get a dominant gene for if you get a dominant gene on the X chromosome and there's no pair on the Y because the Y is too small to have a pair, that dominant gene is going to get expressed, right? Same thing if you have a recessive. Whatever's on that X chromosome that doesn't have a pair on the Y is going to get expressed. That's a problem if whatever is on the X is a bum gene, is a problem gene, is going to cause a problem, it's going to cause a disorder. You've got nothing to counteract it over here. So it's going to get expressed no matter what it is. So males have just that one X chromosome, thus all X-linked alleles are expressed in males. So this is a male we're dealing with, right? Now, if you're a female and you have two X chromosomes, if you've got a recessive disorder on one chromosome and you have a dominant on the other, it's not going to be expressed, right? Because the dominant covers the recessive and you're good to go. This is why sex-linked traits show up in men way more than women. All right, so let's take a look. Some sex-linked disorders you might know. Color blindness is on the X chromosome. There is no comparable gene on the Y chromosome to fix it. If you have the gene for color blindness on your X chromosome and you're a female and your other gene says no color blindness, you're fine. But if you're a man and you have the gene for color blindness, you're going to be colorblind because you have nothing to cover it up. Hemophilia is another one. Hemophilia is a disease where if you get cut, your body lacks a clotting factor in your blood and you just bleed and bleed and bleed and bleed. And it's really hard to stop bleeding. It was actually very common in some of the royal families in Europe because they interbred, because they were trying to keep all these royal bloodlines together. And because they interbred with one another so much, that genetic disorder got passed all around. And a lot of them had it. Muscular dystrophy usually affects boys. far more often than girls, because you have to have 2 recessives for the girls to get it. You don't have to have 2 for the boys. You only have to have 1. Fragile X. We'll talk a little bit more about Fragile X in a minute. So, color blindness, the most common disorder, sex-linked disorder, is red-green color blindness. It affects 1 in 12 males. And it affects 1 in 200 females. So you see how much more common it is in men? And now we get to the point where someone learns something new about him or herself. Can you see the number in that first circle? Who can see the number? You can see it. What's the number? Oh, this is good because he's the one boy in the room and he's got it. You both have it? So good. We're not colorblind. Nobody's somebody, every time I teach this lesson, somebody goes, oh my God. They learn that they're colorblind. All right. What about that number?
36.
Yep. 9, 4, 15. Yes. And red-green color blindness, where red and green look very similar, is the most common one. So good. No color blindness in this room. This means everybody here can be a pilot, can be a U.S. Marshal, can be an electrician. There are some jobs you cannot do if you're colorblind. You can't do the job. It's not safe.
You get colorblindness over time.
No, you can't. Now, there could be some things that happen that impair your vision over time, but this is specifically genetic. You have 3 types of cells in the back of your eye. You got rods and cones. One does light, one does color. And of those cones, the cones do color. You've got ones that do green, red, and kind of like a blue. And if you are missing certain proportions of them, if they're not all in equal proportions, then you can get colorblind. So here's a good one. Some women have a rare color vision trait called tetrachromacy. This almost never occurs in men. This is for women. And it's linked on the X chromosome. And you can see up to 100 million shades of color because they have 4 types of cone cells in their eye instead of the original 3. So the question is, how many bars of color can you see? Everybody's counting.
Is same color like dark and all that stuff?
Yeah, like how many bars do you see? How many colors? Can you count? How many?
42.
She sees 42. And this is a weird one because sometimes your eyes play tricks on you and you see ones that aren't there. What'd you get, Everly? She's still counting. 39. What'd you get? Yeah. I usually get in the low 30s. So if you see 33 to 39, you might be a tetrachromat. So you 2 are related, very closely related. So there's a chance that that's something you might have. So you can play these. There's fun. You can do all these online. You can do it. Am I a tetrachromat test? And you can do them all. And it's really kind of fun to work your way through them. But it's going to be very, very rare for this to ever be something a man experiences. But there are some women who can see up to 100 million shades of color because they have an extra type of cone in their eye, which is really cool. So here's hemophilia. We talked about hemophilia. So 2 important genes carried on the X chromosome help blood to clot. In hemophilia, a protein necessary for normal blood clotting is missing. And about 1 in 10,000 males is born with hemophilia. And look, royal family, and this is going to be part of your lab today. But royal family, we look at these people. Look here. Queen Elizabeth II. She's the one that died like last year, right? And then she has her kids down here. So that would be Anne, Charles, Andrew, and who's the other one? I don't remember. Anyway, if you look, you've got females that carry. That means at least one of their X chromosomes, has the gene for hemophilia. And over here, you'll notice that it's never the women that have the hemophilia, it's the men that have it. Men are female carriers are the circle with the dot in the middle, and then males with hemophilia are the red square. So if you look, you can see it's the offspring, like right there, see Beatrice? She was a carrier. And one of her daughters is a carrier, 2 of her sons are hemophilia, right? So that's a dangerous one. It used to be, now we can deal with it a lot better, but But in the past, it killed some royal people because it just bled to death, which is, by the way, exsanguination is a terrible way to die. It's a terrible, miserable way to die. So that's really awful, an awful thing to have. Then you get muscular dystrophy. So it's a disorder that results in the progressive weakening and loss of your skeletal muscle. And in the United States, it's about 1 in 3,000 males. So it's pretty common. 1 in 3,000 is pretty common. And it causes, you have low muscle tone to begin with, and over time it just gets worse and worse. And it affects skeletal muscles. So skeletal muscles, so your heart is not a skeletal muscle, it's cardiac muscle. And the muscles that move your intestines and stuff are not skeletal muscle. They're a different kind of muscle. They're called smooth muscle. But your skeletal muscle, you have some that are important for living because like your diaphragm, like you can control whether you breathe hard or not. That's your diaphragm. Plus all the muscles that involve your chest wall and all of that allow you to sit up straight. All of those can get affected. And then that person would just suffer endlessly. It's not a good one. You don't want that either. Now, Fragile X results when when your X chromosome you get from your mother has a weak part on it, this little kind of broken dangly part, okay? So women are carriers. Women are not affected by Fragile X, but their male offspring, their boys, their sons, can have Fragile X. And it causes intellectual disabilities, learning challenges. They tend to have a long face, long ears, a very prominent jaw. Their fingers are very flexible. Their feet are flat, all kinds of stuff that's different with them. Now, you've probably seen a tortoiseshell cat before. Have you seen a tortoiseshell cat? You ever seen one? They look like this. They're some of my favorite cats. These are always female. If you see a cat that looks like that, it's a female. And here's how you know. Because it is X chromosome activation and inactivation that cause that color. So what you get is an allele for orange and an allele for orange and an allele for black. And then as those cells in their skin and their hair follicles form, they switch on and off. Which gene is on, which gene is off. So when the gene for orange is turned on, you get orange fur. And when the gene for black is turned on, you get black fur. And they turn on and off during the development of that embryo at different times. So when that kitten is born, that kitten has like a patchwork of fur. So that's how you get a tortoiseshell cat. So females have 2 X chromosomes, but males only have 1. In females, 1 X chromosome is randomly switched off, and that's how you get those colors. So there are also environmental impacts on gene expression. So the environment can change how genes are expressed. So for example, in this Himalayan rabbit, this is crazy. This is a crazy image, but they put an ice pack on this bunny. I don't think anybody actually did that. They probably did. But I think they're just trying to show you how it works. So Siamese cats and Himalayan rabbits are darker in color where the body heat is lost to the environment. So if you look where its nose, its ears, and its feet, we tend to call that points. Like on a cat or a dog, it's points. Where those are the places on their body that are going to lose the most heat to the environment, right? Their little ears, their little nose, their little feet. And because of that, it changes how the genes are expressed. So you're going to get a gene for darker fur expressed in those areas. So here they're showing you that if they put this ice pack on this rabbit, then it's going to get black fur where the ice pack was even, because it just impacts the way those genes are expressed. So temperature is an example. So then you have genetic counselors. And these folks, this is a great career field if you want to get into a really fun, really good, rewarding career field. These are people that analyze your genotype, your pedigree, your family tree, and they can tell whether you and your eventual spouse or whoever you may have children with have genetic concerns that are going to produce issues for offspring. Like they can say, oh, you've got this and you've got that, and if you guys come together, your kid may have this disorder or that disorder. Hang on. Shh. Y'all are too loud. Yes. All right, so let's see. So here are some of those. So an image of human chromosomes is called a karyotype. It looks like that. Is this a male or a female? Who can tell me? Is this karyotype from a male or a female human? How do you know? You're right. How do you know? You know? See the XY. There it is, right there. You see the XY? X looks like a big chromosome, like a normal one, and Y is this little of a thing. That's a male, right? So we have recessive alleles. Many human genes have become known through the study of genetic disorders. In most cases, genetic disorders are usually recessive. Some autosomal recessive conditions you might have heard of: albinism, sickle cell, cystic fibrosis, and Tay-Sachs. So let's talk about some of them. So albinism, this is albino. You've heard of an albino before? You've seen an albino rabbit or an albino rat. We have albino people too. So albinism, it's not just that they have this lack of color in their skin and hair and eyes. Their skin and their hair and eyes can be very, very pale because they lack melanin, which is the protein that produces pigment in your skin. Yes, they do lack that, but they also tend to have issues with their vision, and their eyes can be crossed or their eyes can bounce. That's called strabismus. And they have sensitivity to light. You guys have got to stop. You're way too loud. All right. So they can have a sensitivity to light. They can have vision problems, eye problems. Nystagmus, sorry, is the bouncing of your eyes moving around. And they can be blind even. So it's not just that they're very pale. And that's also an eye thing, astigmatism. This affects all ethnic backgrounds. It's about 1 in 17,000 people. And it is prevalent in different forms, varies kind of by population, but its highest overall prevalence is in sub-Saharan African descent. So I know one albino personally, and she is of African descent. She is African American, but her skin color is probably close to mine, and her hair is blonde, and her eyes are very, very light. But her features still look as if they are of African descent, because she is. Hold on. Guys, I'm not going to come over again. Zip it. Quiet. You got to let them have their class time. All right, so then we have sickle cell anemia. All right, now this is sickle cell anemia is when your red blood cells are the wrong shape. Do you see how some of them are shaped like a little moon? It's called a sickle, like you use a sickle to cut down wheat. Like the Grim Reaper has a sickle, that's what that is. So because of that, they can't carry oxygen to your tissues properly. So it causes fatigue and anemia, what they call pain crises. Dactylitis, which is swelling and inflammation in your hands and in your feet. They can get infections. They can have pooling of blood in their liver and their spleen. They have lung and heart injuries. They get leg ulcers. They get bone infarcts, which is when portions of their bone just dies because it's not getting oxygen the way it needs to. Oh, yeah?
What's a stigma?
Astigmatism has to do with, you have that because you have glasses. Do you have astigmatism? It has to do with how your eyes focus light. And like at nighttime, it can cause things to have like halos around them, kind of like beams of light going the wrong way. It just has to do with like how your lens is situated in your eye. So it can also cause aseptic necrosis, which means parts of your body just die. The tissue just dies. Aseptic meaning it's not caused by an infection. It's just not getting oxygen, so that dies. Eye damage. It affects all ethnic backgrounds. Its frequency worldwide is about 112 out of every 100,000 people, but it is highest prevalence in people of African descent, and it's 1 in 500 for people of African descent in the US. I know one person with sickle cell anemia. She is Black. So yeah, it is common. It is much more common. She is not. She's somebody I worked with years ago. Really sweet girl, but she had these pain crises about once a month where she was in so much pain that she had to call out of work because she couldn't come because she just hurt so bad all over. Then we have cystic fibrosis. This is a weird one. Their skin tastes salty. They have a cough all the time. They're coughing up phlegm. You know when you're sick and you cough up mucus? They do it all the time. And they get frequent lung infections or pneumonia and bronchitis. They wheeze. They have shortness of breath. They don't grow well. They don't gain weight well. Even their poop is affected. Their bowel movements are like greasy. It just kind of affects everything. And the males tend to be infertile. They can't reproduce. They can't have babies. A lot of times people with cystic fibrosis will have to wear these vests that vibrate, and they vibrate really hard because they shake all of the mucus and stuff in your lungs loose so you can cough it up. Before that, they had these little, it was like a disc with a little, it almost looked like a baby bottle nipple, but a little, not quite so pointy, a little more blunt, and you would loop it over your fingers and put the pointy part here and bang on their back, just bang on their back to loosen it up so they can breathe. It's really not, it's terrible. So it's all ethnic backgrounds. It's about 1 in every 3,200 people, so much more common. And it's highest in people of European descent. So typically white people are going to have cystic fibrosis. Now this one, Tay-Sachs disease, is rare, but it's terribly impactful in a bad way. So these people have a neurological condition where they get startled by noises. They are slow to learn to crawl. Some of them don't even learn to crawl. And even when they get those skills, then they lose those skills. They're floppy and their bodies are floppy and they're weak, and it gets worse, and eventually they become paralyzed. They have trouble swallowing, they lose vision and hearing, and their muscles are very stiff, and they can have seizures. And they lack an enzyme. That's what the genetic disorder causes, lack of this particular enzyme, and that's what causes the issue. It's in most ethnic backgrounds, its frequency is 1. Now listen to this. Its frequency worldwide, the entire world, all ethnic backgrounds, is 1 per 100,000. But in French Canadians, Cajuns, and Old Amish in Pennsylvania, tends to be a little higher, but it's highest of all in the Ashkenazi Jewish population. Ashkenazi Jews are the Eastern European Jews. It's that population of Jewish people. And look at how much higher it is, from 1 in 1,000 to 1 in 3,600. That's way huge incidence. That's because that genetic population of Ashkenazi Jews, because of their ethnic background and their religious faith, they interbreed, right? That population is always interbreeding. And because of that, it becomes more and more and more common. So that's why in certain niche populations, you can get diseases at a much higher rate.
I've seen people.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So they have a slightly higher risk of Tay-Sachs. So dominant, those are all recessive disorders. These are dominant disorders. So Huntington's disease, they have difficulty swallowing, memory problems, depression, mood swings, irritability. They can be aggressive. They stumble, they fall over, they have involuntary jerking movements of their body. They have difficulty speaking clearly and may find communication very difficult. They have swallowing problems, increasingly slow or rigid movements, and breathing problems. Here's the thing with Huntington's. You start out like this, like all of us, and then you reach a certain age where you just decline. The disease starts to kick in, and you lose all of your functions like this. It's one of those ones where, like, some people don't know they have it until they're older. It's not apparent when you're born. And they get difficulty walking. They can lose the ability to walk or sit up. It's in all ethnic backgrounds. It's about 2.7 per every 100,000 people, and it's highest overall in people of Egyptian descent. Egyptian. So then we have Marfan syndrome. Shh. Y'all, keep the volume down, please. Everybody's chatty today. So Marfan syndrome, these people tend to be very tall and very thin, and they have really long arms and legs and fingers. Look at his fingers. See how long his arms are? Like, if you stood up, your arms probably come, a little past your hips. These are way down here by his knees. See that?
A lot of basketball players about that.
Yeah. They have a breastbone, their sternum, and you know how your sternum kind of goes in? Theirs goes out, and it dips, or it can go really far in, either out or really far in. Their palate in their mouth is really high. Their teeth tend to be crowded. They can have heart murmurs. They can be very nearsighted, so their vision is not good. They have a curved spine, flat feet, all ethnic backgrounds. It's about 2.5 people out of every 10,000 people. Do you know which historical figure a lot of people have suggested may have had Marfan? Some people think Lincoln. President Lincoln may have had Marfan's, but he lived a normal lifespan and he didn't have a lot of these other medical problems. So just because he was very tall and very thin and had long fingers doesn't necessarily mean it, but some people suggest he might have. We don't have any way to prove it. Then we have polydactyly. This is when you have extra digits, extra fingers, extra toes. Anybody know anybody with polydactyly? Like, you know anybody?
It's like this, like there's like this like little toe.
Yeah, my cousin's baby was born with an extra finger on each hand and an extra toe on each foot. But they had no bones in them, so they just tied little strings around them and then they just died and go. But he was born with polydactyly. So it's, guys, it's either radial, this depends on where they come from, meaning out of the middle. Radial, sorry, where your radius is. So this side of your hand. Central in the middle, or axial, ulnar over here. So this radial here, sorry, central here, ulnar here, where are your extra digits? And it's all ethnic backgrounds. It's about 1 in 1,000. So it's pretty darn common. And it's highest overall in people of African descent with about 1 in 150. My cousin's kid is not of African descent, but he had it anyway. Then we have achondroplasia. You've probably met somebody with achondroplasia. They call it dwarfism also. That's like the common colloquial term is dwarfism. The scientific term is achondroplasia. So there are all kinds of different symptoms because there are different types of achondroplasia. So it can affect you differently. And there are two main categories, proportionate and disproportionate. And then within there are many others. There's some people that are proportionate and just very small. And then there's some people that are disproportionate. Like you've probably seen some of them have like a normal size torso and head, but small arms and legs, right? And this is also all ethnic backgrounds. And it's about 1 in 25,000. Human chromosomes, 21 and 22 are your smallest autosomes. Do you see them? 21 and 22? See how little? So chromosome 22, even though it's the smallest, you see it? Or second smallest, contains 43 million base pairs, and 21 has 32 million base pairs. That's your smallest chromosome, 21. It still has 32 million genes on it, even though it's itty bitty. Some chromosomal disorders can occur when your sex cells are created. When your eggs and sperm are being created, sometimes those chromosomes don't separate properly, and then you end up with an extra chromosome, which is known as a trisomy. Do we see a third 21st chromosome?
Yeah.
Does anybody know the common name for trisomy 21? I guarantee you've met someone with trisomy 21. It's called Down syndrome. Anybody know anyone with Down syndrome? I've got several friends I know with Down syndrome. Yep. So that's your most common. It's your extra 21st pair. And these guys, you probably know that they have like developmental disorders. They have some intellectual disorders, but they also have other things going on. They're short. They can have vision problems. They have issues with their hearts. They have issues with muscle tone. They can have issues with their skin. And so if you look at, this is an interesting one. If you look at your hands, you see all these lines on your palm, they have one, just one. But it's so much more common that it's 1 in 700, which is why you've probably met someone with that. So other disorders of sex chromosomes, the more common two that you hear about are Turner and Klinefelter. So Klinefelter is when you have, Turner syndrome, sorry, is when you've got only one X chromosome. Something like kind of weird happened there with the sperm and you're missing something. And then in Klinefelters, you can have extra X's, but because there's a Y, that's a male organism, even though that male organism is going to have some more female characteristics because they have those extra X's kind of kicking in. But the presence of that Y is what determines. And then we've got the genome, just real quick, I'll show you as we roll through. That's what the Human Genome Project looked like from 1990. And now it has gotten much more complicated. And we did this in lab last week when we did fingerprinting, right? So you guys kind of know what that looks like, or 2 weeks ago, I guess it was. And then we have gene therapy. They can actually go in and target genes now and change how they, guys, y'all today, how they express phenotypically, which is pretty cool. I'll let you guys watch that video on your own. Here are your, if you want to check your binders real quick. I don't know if you care to check, but you probably should care to check. I don't know why this won't. Uh-oh, it's stuck. Maybe not. Oh no, it's stuck just in time. Well, this will be available for you. You guys know that. So, oh, there it goes. You guys can look at, check, because it's not loading and being weird. Check your, check it against the slides in your, resource, but, resource folder. Okay, are we good? All right, let me invite all these other people in here.